Okay. So I think we can start with our class of this week. Shall we?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you.
Ma'am, can you please tell us important topics or questions? I know you are going to them, but
actually, at the end of each lesson, I am telling you. So you are expected to note them down.
yes, ma'am.
Anyways, tomorrow I'll try to give the list of important questions. As tomorrow is the last class. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah, tomorrow definitely I'll share some of the important topics
Thank you, ma'am.
you can concentrate on. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. So we'll start with this.
Okay.
Hard times. So last week I missed the slides. So this day we deal with it, hard times. So Charles Dickens wrote Hard Times. If you remember the background, so it is about industrialization as Victorian era writers mostly concentrated on the societal representation of the societal economical conditions of the society, and they wrote particularly on the issues like industrialization and human conditions, their struggles due to the wars, industrialization, and the class struggle has been increased. That means already there was a gap in the societal strata. You say strata. That means higher, richer class or creamy section, and the middle class and lower class. So due to this industrialization, that gap was increased, and middle class growth rapidly. That you can see a rapid growth of middle class in all aspects, education, and their social status, as well as they became wealthy, they became rich. So there are so many changes due to this industrialization. So now Hard Times talks about the societal conditions and how people are really struggling, and rich people are becoming richer, poorer are becoming poorer, poor people are becoming poorer, and how the relationships are existing, and how the delicacy, humanism, and creativity, all these things has been reduced in the society. So Charles Dickens' Hard Times is quite popular. And Hard Times is a novel by Charles Dickens, first published in 1854. The story is set in the fictional industrial town of Coketown. So this is not set in London, and this is comparatively, this is a short novel of Charles Dickens. The rest of the novels of Charles Dickens they're quite long, huge, very great works. And this is a very short novel, as well as very important, and became quite popular. And the setting is done at Imagination Town. It is a fictional town that is called Coketown. It explores themes of social and economic inequality, the effects of industrialization, and the importance of imagination and compassion in human life. So human lost imagination. They lost their creativity. They lost their humanity. So they are acting like mere machines. Everything is calculative. The time is calculative. Education is calculative. And their profession, marriage, in each and every relation, it became very financial. Okay. So all relations are financial relations. That became quite popular in this era. So now, the book has been divided into three sub books, like, so first three parts. So the book one, that is called Sowing. So as you saw, sow you reap. This is a proverb from Bible actually. So he has divided the novel into three: sowing and reaping and harvesting. Right. So Thomas Gradgrin, this is the important character, and a strict utilitarian schoolmaster. So he owns a school, and he orders his teachers to teach values like everything is calculative. There is no emotion. There should not be any kind of feelings, and everyone should act precisely, calculatively. Thus, that is the essence of his school. So, who believes in facts and figures? Everything is in facts and figures. There is nothing like personal, there is nothing like emotions and feelings. Raising his children, Lucia and Tom, without any imagination or emotions. So, really, he has so many children, and comparative, these two are his elder children, Lucia and Tom. So, really, children had tough time with this kind of attitude of their father. So they are not allowed to go and to play and waste time. He thinks that playing is waste of time. He thinks that meeting friends and having a fashionable attending parties of that day's fashion is also waste of time. So you should do whatever the thing is very calculative. In the sense, you should work hard and you should get money. That's it. That is the only aim of Thomas Gradgrin philosophy. So Sissy Jupe, in the first chapter, a circus girl who joins Gradgrin's school after her father abandons her. Sissy represents the world of imagination and emotion. So this Sissy Jupe, actually, she is a daughter of a stuntsman who works for a circus company. And Sissy Joop is she has hopes. She's highly aspirant of having a good future. She's imaginative, creative, and she's very emotional, which is quite opposite to Thomas Gradgrin's philosophy and his family members also. So Sissy Jubes, in one of the sadistic incidents, actually her father leaves her, abandons her because he has some problem and he leaves the place. So she becomes abandoned, and so she comes to Gradgrind's home to work for Lady Gradgrind, and as well as to look after smaller kids, younger ones, younger children of Gradgrind's family. And she continues her education in the school of Thomas Gradgrind. And this Thomas Gradgrind did not like Sissy Ju because of her creativity. She is quite imaginative, quite creative, emotive, and those qualities did not mesmerize or did not they weren't able to inspire this Thomas Gradgrind. So he did not accept that qualities of Sissy Ju. So in the first chapter itself, another character and important character, Josiah Bounderby. He's a wealthy rich man. He's a businessman. He's a mill owner who is described in the novel. So a wealthy self-made businessman who is a friend with a Gradgrind and is characterized by his arrogance and disdain for the poor. So he never cares the poor people. So here you can see the layers of the society. Here, okay, Thomas Grind, he is not business sector. He owns a school. He runs a school. Okay, that means who has to instill the qualities and the real importance and the meaning of education into the society. And that school is teaching only facts and figures. And usually this class belongs to middle class. And Sissy Jupe, she represents working class. She represents working class. Josiah Bounderby, she represents, he represents, it is a richer class, business class. So you see the three categories of the society. And this Josiah Bounderby used to address his workers as hands. So hands is just, that notion. You can try to understand that how he is not treating them as humans. He is treating them as assets or tools, just mere tools of his business. So second book is Reaping. So Lucia Grandgrind grows up emotionally stunted due to her father's rigid teachings. Despite the significant age difference, she marries Bounderby out of duty rather than love. So in the second chapter, what happens? So Lucia Grandgrind, she's a daughter of Grandgrind, so she is willing to marry this Bounderby, who is the rich man. So there is an age gap of 30 years. But Lucia accepts not out of love, she accepts this marriage proposal as a duty because of her duty. She thinks it is her duty. Why? Lucia Grandgrind's brother, Tom Grandgrind, so he works for this Bounderby. So if she marries, her brother would get a chance to come into a high position in the business. That is the main reason. And her father inspires her. Her father counsels her to take up this chance. And he tries to explain there is nothing to do with the age gap with the marriage. So everything is for money. Yes, please unmute somebody. Yeah. Next, Tom Grandgrind becomes a dissipated and selfish young man working for Bounderby and eventually stealing money from the bank, framing an innocent man, Stephen Blackpool, a poor factory worker. So here comes another character, a very honest person. Again, he belongs to working class. So now he becomes a robber. So he deceives Bounderby and steals money from the bank where he works. And he puts the blame on Stephen Blackpool. So now Tom Gradgrind frames Stephen Blackpool, a poor worker in the factory. Stephen Blackpool, a virtuous but oppressed worker who is trapped in a loveless marriage and is in love with another woman, Rachel. He is falsely accused of theft due to Tom's actions and suffers greatly because of it. So he is completely framed, and now this person feels very bad. Already he is suffering with his loveless marriage, and he is in love with another lady and who is very kind, Rachel, and both of them tries to come out of that framing. And in the book 3, garnering. So Lucia's crisis. Lucia confronts her father about her unhappy life and loveless marriage, leading Gradgrind to realize the flaws in his philosophy. So Bounderby is very selfish, and we already knew the character. He's ruthless, he's kindless, he's unkind to everyone and all that. So she's not happy with the marriage at all. And in fact, he's not helpful for her brother also, Tom. So now Lucia accuses her father because she is forcibly thrown into the marriage with Bounderby. Tom's downfall. Tom's theft is eventually discovered. He flees the country with the help of Sissy and Mr. Sleary, a circus owner. So this Sissy helps him out. Sissy Joop who is a worker at their home. So she helps, and Mr. Sleary, so where Sissy's father used to work in Mr. Sleary circus company. So they helps Tom to flee from the country. Stephen's fate. Stephen, injured in an accident, manages to clear his name before he dies. Unfortunately, this Stephen dies. But he is able to clear his name, that he is not the thief. So resolution, Gradgrind becomes more compassionate. Lucia remains unmarried but finds some peace. And Sissy Jupe's influence brings warmth and humanity to the Gradgrind household. So finally, they come to a resolution. So the family changes, all the characters in the family. Gradgrind, he changes his philosophy. So he's ready to accept compassion and humanity, as well as Lucia and Tom and the other household. So the themes that you need to consider in this book, novel: utilitarianism versus imagination. This is one of the important themes. The novel criticizes the utilitarian approach to education and life. Nothing but materialistic life. You need to enjoy. You need to be calculative each and every moment. Okay, a mechanical style and a method of taking life that work like a machine, think like a machine, no emotions, no feelings, no compassion, no humanity, no imagination. You just work and earn. So such type of uh, philosophy, that is utilitarianism, and versus imagination. Imagination and creativity being the most special characteristics of humanity. So he creates these two themes or concepts in his novel. So, advocating for the importance of imagination, compassion, and human warmth. So, he advocates for that, means he is advising that human should be compassionate and human should be imaginative, creative, and that warmthness, feelings, soft feelings towards the another co-human being is necessary. Industrialization, another theme. Dickens highlights the dehumanizing effects of industrialization on workers and society. So he highlights clearly how the factory workers, mill owners, the business class is treating the working class. Okay, they are not giving respect. The work hasn't been given any kind of respect or at least dignity. So there is no dignity of labor which is practiced in the society of Britain. So through this industrialization, he is portraying all these conditions of working class. Social injustice. The novel depicts the harsh realities of social and economic inequality. Yes, there are social inequalities in the status based on their profession and based on the job nature of the kind of nature of the work, and economic inequality. Yes, there is a suppression. One can observe the suppression. One can observe dehumanization in the society. For example, Bounderby used to address his workers as a hands. And Tom Gradgrind, he framed another the person called Blackpool. So the working class has been exploited. They have been manipulated by the upper class. So showing the struggles of the working class. Hard Times is a poignant critic of Victorian society and its values, emphasizing the need for a balance between reason and emotion and the importance of compassion in human interactions. So it advocates for the change in the working class. It advocates for the imaginative, creative, humanistic characteristics of the humanity, mankind, so that the working class could be respected. They should be given an identity or at least acknowledgement for the work what they are doing. So utilitarianism versus imagination. In Hard Times, Charles Dickens presents a sharp critique of utilitarianism. contrasting it with the value of imagination and human compassion. Utilitarianism, as depicted in the novel, is represented by the characters who prioritize facts, efficiency, and practical outcomes over emotions, creativity, and moral values. So, try to observe the characteristics of utilitarianism in each and every important character through Bounderby, Gradgrind, and all the characters. They are they give priority to facts and efficiency and for outcomes. That means if they are investing something, they should get profit in terms of money or in terms of some other materialistic things. But they are not ready to be kind towards the poor. They are not ready to help, giving a helping hand who are in need. So that all these things are not necessary for them. So that is utilitarianism. So they don't give importance to emotions, creativity, and they don't even follow moral values also. So in order to be fruitful, so they can frame anybody, they can drag themselves to any extent, they can become robbers, they can become, any kind of persons that we cannot imagine. So the novel illustrates consequences of such a philosophy on individuals and society. Utilitarianism not in that age, but actually today also it is present in our society also, even in India and throughout the world. So hard times is not only date back to that later part of the 19th century or 18th century, but it is still applicable to present day society also. Thomas Gradgrind, the characters, the primary advocate of utilitarianism in the novel. He is the one who introduces this philosophy to his school. That means his students. He teaches his students, he teaches his family, and whoever comes to him. So Gradgrind's philosophy is based on facts and figures, and he raises his children, Lucia and Tom, under his rigid doctrine, which is an utter failure actually. Lucia is unable to become a happy person through her marriage and as well as through her education. Tom, through in his profession and his personal life, he also became a great utter failure. So totally Thomas Gradgrind became a failed man. He believes that human experience can be reduced to measurable data and that anything imaginative or emotional is frivolous. So that means useless. That is his philosophy, utilitarian. So Josiah Bounderby, even though he is not the student of Thomas Gradgrind and very equivalent, they both of them are friends and colleagues. So Gradgrind's friend embodies the utilitarian industrialist. So he is a academic person, academician. Thomas Gradgrind is an academician, so that you can understand the values, how the values are going in the society. And here you can see the industrialist, a business class, a major part who occupies in the society. So he's proud of being a self-made man and dismisses any notion of compassion for his workers. He claims so that my mother left me, okay, she abandoned me. So I raised from ashes. I'm a self-made person. So I worked hard. I became this great. So I don't want to give any kind of help to the poor because they have to work, they have to become successful. That is he boasts himself always whenever he meets people. His view of success is purely materialistic, and he sees people as tools for profit rather than as individuals with intrinsic value. So Lucia Gradgrind's daughter, is a victim of his utilitarian upbringing, deprived of, emotionally detached, and marries Bounderby out of duty rather than love. Her internal struggle and eventual breakdown highlight the detrimental effects of a life devoid of emotional richness. Now she is rich. Lucia Gradgrind became rich after marrying Bounderby. but there is no richness in her emotions. She is always in confusion. She is always in the conflict. Okay, so there is no maturity in her character. She marries just because of her brother and her father. She has no specific idea about marriage. So, such kind of failure that she has faced is a good example of her bitter experiences of this utilitarianism. So now see the other aspect, imagination. Sissy Jupe, the antithesis of the grand philosophy. Sissy, the daughter of a circus performer, represents imagination, compassion, and emotional intelligence. Even though she is not rich in terms of money, she is rich in creativity. So she is a complete person. Even though she is not rich, she has that intelligence, emotional intelligence, how to react, when to react, how to offer help for to the people who are in need. So such type of character she is, Sissy Ju. Her presence in the grand household contrasts the rigid environment and ultimately influences positive chance. So Mr. Sleary, the owner of the circus where Sissy's father worked, he embodies the value of entertainment, imagination, and emotional connection. His philosophy, encapsulated in the line, people must be amused, highlights the human need for joy and creativity. So he owns a circus company, he runs compassionate, kind, and his philosophy is quite opposite to grand philosophy. And he used to say, this is a quote from the novel, people must be amused. That means people should have happiness, joy, creativity. Otherwise, we don't be called as human beings. That is Mr. Sleary's philosophy. And Lucia, transformation. And here, Lucia initially belongs to the philosophy of utilitarianism, brought up a result of that philosophy. Now she transforms into imaginative. Throughout the novel, Lucia begins to recognize the void in her life created by her father's philosophy. Her emotional awakening and confrontation with her father mark a rejection of utilitarianism and an acknowledgement of the importance of feelings and human connections. So, Lucia transformation is quite important. She is the one who belongs to both. And later, she confronts her father's philosophy and she transforms into imagination. So key contrast you can see, education, grandparents school emphasizes rote learning and memorization of facts. There is no understanding of the concepts, feelings, emotions, any kind. Just students are given a topic and they have to by heart and they have to learn it. Stifling creativity and individuality. There is no question of creativity. So there is no questions asked the students, and there is no question of asking their responses whether they are able to understand any topic or not. Such type of rote learning is is given. Such kind of education is given in the school of Grand Bryant. So Sissy's background in the circus values storytelling, creativity, and emotional expression, which enriches her understanding of the world. So Sissy, even though she is a student of Grant Grind's philosophy, she studies in the school, but she represents another philosophy, which is yet essential to a humankind. So she might not be rich. She might not be able to complete her education in the so-called, rich school, but she has that knowledge, understanding of the world. So she can understand the world. She got knowledge, wisdom. So she is the educated one. She is the real enlightened one, rather than the children and the students of Grand Bryant. Coming to personal relationships, the utilitarian characters like Bounderby and the Gradgrinds often have strained or superficial relationships. Sissy, on the other hand, forms deep, meaningful connections with others, showcasing the importance of empathy and compassion. She is true to her and to her neighbor in each and every relation. Whereas the other characters like Bounderby and Gradgrind and Sissy, Tom, they are not true. That means they always look into the chances of benefit, benefit of their own. So they are not true, they are not honest in their personal relationships. Moral values. Utilitarianism in the novel is associated with a lack of moral and ethical considerations. Characters like Bounderby are self-centered and exploitative. Imaginative characters like Sissy and Stephen Blackpool exhibit moral integrity and a sense of justice. Sissy and Stephen Blackpool, the character who is framed by Tom. So they represent integrity and a sense of justice. So we can conclude like this. Dickens uses the contrast between utilitarianism and imagination to critique the dehumanizing aspects of industrial society and to advocate for a moral balanced approach to life that values emotional richness and creativity and compassion. So man is not a machine. Man is a social being, social animal. So he should have company. He should have affection. He should have compassion, humanity. And finally, most importantly, moral essence. So through this novel, Dickens is emphasizing this fact. Through the journeys of his characters, he demonstrates the necessity of integrating both rational thought and imaginative empathy to achieve a fulfilling and just society. What is just society? A justice, justice, where all are equal, economically, socially. So this is the essence of Hard Times. And here we go into the 20th unit, Blessed Damozel. So, Blessed Damozel, the author is D.G. Rossetti. He belongs to pre-Raphaelite period. So, what is pre-Raphaelite period? In brief, the pre-Raphaelites, formerly known as the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, BRB, were a group of English painters, poets, and critics founded in 1848 by three persons, William Holman Hunt, John Everett Millais, and Dante Gabriel Rossetti. So we are studying Dante Gabriel Rossetti, that is D.G. Rossetti here. So actually these Raphaelites Raphaelite is a painter. So they have schools, different schools in painting, and mostly pre-Raphaelites are the artists they are both painters and poets. So they started their writings in poetry, and as well as they are also painters by profession. So they are pre-Raphaelites. So they wrote their writings in a beautiful way, in a very descriptive way. So they used to describe each and every line. The description part is quite important here. And they have given importance to very good painting, bright colors, using of bright colors, and concepts are taken from the nature, and the realistic portrayal of the characters and the scenery has been given importance. That is a very brief introduction about pre-Raphaelites. The group sought to reform art by rejecting one humanistic approach adopted by the Mannerist artists who succeed Raphael and Michelangelo. After Raphael and Michelangelo, the great painters, there is a school started. Their paintings and the writings became quite mechanistic. They used very subtle colors and the paintings were not bright. Very light colors were used. Almost the shades were used. So whatever the characteristic of that Raphael period is there. So these people started a new trend, a new school, that is the pre-Raphaelite period. So instead, they aim to return to Quattrocento Italian arts detail. This is an Italian school of art, intense colors and complex compositions, the art before Raphael. So they brought concept from Italy. So D.G. Rossetti, Dante Gabriel Rossetti, was a renowned English poet, illustrator, painter, and translator. See, he is a poet, he's an illustrator, and he's a painter and translator. He was a leading figure in the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, an artistic movement that sought to return to the detail, intense colors, and complex compositions of Quattrocento Italian art. So he adopted that concept from this Italian school of painting. So early life, he was born in May 12th and 1828 in London, England. His parents, Gabriel Rossetti, an Italian scholar and poet, and Frances Polidori, the daughter of an Italian exile. So you can see the impact of his roots from Italian society. So his siblings also achieved literary fame, particularly his sister, Christina Rossetti, a notable poet. She is also a poet. Education, Rossetti has attended King's College School in London and later studied at the Royal Academy of Art. However, he was more interested in medieval art and literature. So he denied this Royal Academy of Art, which gave importance to particularly that Raphaelite period. So that Rossetti calls the old school where he studied and where his contemporaries followed as quite purely mechanical. So he started another literary movement. So his literary career and artistic career, painting. Rossetti was known for his vivid and sensuous paintings, often featuring his muses and lovers, such as Elizabeth Siddal, Jane Morris, and Fanny Cornforth. His notable works include this Beata Beatrix and The Beloved. These are his paintings. And poetry, his poetry characterized by rich imagery and medieval themes. His major collections include The House of Life, a series of sonnets, and ballads and sonnets in 1881. He's a great poet also. He has written sonnets and ballads. Translation. Rossetti also translated early Italian poets, particularly Dante Alighieri, reflecting his deep interest in medieval Italian literature. So he translated Dante's works. And coming to personal life, Elizabeth Siddal. Rossetti married Elizabeth Siddal in 1860. She was a model for many of his works and a talented artist and poet herself. She is a very beautiful model. And this Elizabethan Siddal worked as a model and she is a wife also. So she is a quite great inspiration for the paintings of Rossetti. So Siddal's health was fragile and she died in 1862 from an overdose of Londam, possibly a suicide. So she is quite sick and she took that thing and she died. So her death deeply affected Rossetti. So later relationships. After Siddal's death, Rossetti was romantically involved with Jane Morris, wife was his friend and fellow artist William Morris, and Fanny Cornforth, who was a frequent model for his paintings. So he never married after, but he was into some relationships. Who were his inspirations, particularly to his paintings? So Rossetti's later years were marked by declining health, mental instability, and addiction to chloral hydrate. It is like an opium. And death, he died on April 9th, 1882 at the age of 53 and is buried in the churchyard of All Saints in Birchington-on-Sea, Kent. He was buried in Kent. So influence, Rossetti's work influenced the symbolist movement and later Victorian poetry. His paintings are celebrated for their beauty, emotional depth, and detailed composition. So whatever the paintings, if you are able to, if you have time, go through Google and ask the paintings of Rossetti. They're beautiful, colorful, they're filled with bright colors, very detailed description, with very detailed description. So that became the inspiration for writers, majorly poetry of Victorian era. The pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood with Rossetti as a central figure left a lasting impact on British art and literature. So his major works, paintings, Blessed Damozel. Blessed Damozel, you have a painting and as well as a poem also. And Proserpine, the Annunciation, Beta Beatrix. Poetry, The House of Life, The Blessed Damozel, and Sister Helen. So Rossetti's contributions to visual art and poetry make him a significant figure in 19th century British literature. His integration of medieval themes with contemporary Victorian issues and his exploration of beauty and sensuality. His poems are beautiful with a great description. He describes each and every detail. Likewise, his poetry, his artist paintings also quite beautiful. So they became quite popular and an inspiration for future artists. So here comes our poem, The Blessed Damozel. The Blessed Damozel is a poem by Dante Gabriel Rossetti, first published in 1850. It is one of his most famous works and exemplifies the pre-Raphaelite emphasis on medieval themes, vivid imagery, and deep emotion. The poem combines elements of romance, spirituality, and longing, and creating a dreamlike narrative. So here the poem is about the love between two people. Blessed Damozel is the lady love and his lover. Okay, so this lady died, this girl died, Blessed Damozel. So now she is in heaven and her lover still on earth. He's living on earth. So now this Blessed Damozel is in the heaven and there is a description of heaven also, how beautiful the heaven is. And blessed, the title, observe the title, blessed means already dead. And blessed in the sense, she is with God. She is in the heaven. Damozel, it is the root meaning of the damozel is a girl, a beautiful young girl. So she is now in the heaven. She is in the heaven. She is enjoying. She is watching Mother Mary. She is spending time with angels and all that. She is attending the dances, muses in the heaven. But she is sad because still she is remembering her lover. She is looking forward to meet her lover. She is expecting her lover with confidence, but she couldn't wait because she says that there is already a day is over. Throughout the day, she is feeling very bad because she is alone, and she is feeling bad that her lover is still on earth. So she goes into the dream and so she is thinking of that when her lover comes. So when they reunite, they have to go to a tree. Okay, so they have to sleep there. They should lie there, and she would take him to the river of light where they can bathe in the light. The light is in the heaven. It is not sunlight, it is light. Okay, so the heavenly light. So she would take her lover to Mother Mary, and she will take the permission from Mother Mary to marry these two. And later they'll go to Jesus Christ, and she will ask for the permission of their marriage. So this is how she is daydreaming about her. She is expecting about her lover's arrival into heaven. And there on the earth, the lover is also feeling very bad, and months and years are passing by. So he couldn't wait for death. So he wants to die and he wants to meet the blessed damsel. So here you can see the worldly love and as well as the heavenly love and the longing for love to meet their lovers. So this is a brief element. This is the brief summary of the poem. So opening scene, the poem begins with the image of the damsel, a young woman, leaning out from the gold bar of heaven. She gazes down longingly from heaven, her eyes as deep as still waters, and her hair as yellow like ripe corn. So ripe corn is yellow, completely yellow, golden yellow. So Rossetti is describing beautifully the beauty of a damsel. This vivid description sets the tone for the poem's blend of the ethereal and the human. Human love and ethereal, which is not human, which is not, which doesn't belong to earth. That is ethereal. The damsel's longing. The damsel yearns to be reunited with her lover, who is still on earth. Despite being in the blissful surroundings of heaven, she feels a profound sense of incompleteness without him. Even though she is happy she's in the heaven, she is not feeling that completeness. She imagines the day they will be reunited and contemplates their future together in the heaven. And imagine reunion. She envisions their life together in heaven, describing a place of eternal beauty and peace. She imagines them lying together beneath a tree, listening to the songs of the blessed. Blessed, I mean the songs which are sung in the heaven, and bathing in the celestial light. This idealized vision is filled with imagery of purity and serenity. This is not of physical love. This is not of carnal pleasure. Their love is pure and they're very serene. That means it is not filled with any kind of uh, uh, obscene desires or extreme physical pleasure. Symbolic imagery. Throughout the poem, Rossetti uses rich symbolism to convey the damsel's emotions and the spiritual connection between the lovers. Light, flowers, and celestial objects emphasize the otherworldly setting and the purity of the damsel's love. You observe symbols, the words used in the poem, light, flowers, celestial objects. These are all called images. So go through the textbook. Actually, a beautiful stanza-wise meaning is given. You can easily understand the poem. The lover's perspective, interwoven with the damsel's perspective, are brief reflections from her lover, who shares her longing and sorrow. His voice adds a layer of melancholy to the poem. Now, his lover who is on the earth. He is filled with melancholy. So this is another lower layer. This is another description. So this is earth. His experiences are different. Here, there is not that much bright colors, not that much impression of that beautiful expression. So here the description of earth, the sadness of the lover is also clearly described. He yearns to join her in heaven. This dual perspective highlights the separation between the earthly and the divine. So the poem ends with the damsel sitting, still gazing from heaven. her yearning unfulfilled. So she is still waiting. Despite her hopes and dreams of reunion, the lovers remain apart, emphasizing the theme of longing and the bittersweet nature of love that transcends life and death. So there, the damsel is dead and she is in the heaven. Here, the person is live in the world. So both of them are experiencing the longing to reunion. So themes are love and longing and separation and reunion. So the poem explores the pain of separation and hope for, obviously, for the reunion. And you can see heaven and earth. The contrast between blissful, serene heaven and the sorrowful, longing earth underscores the tension between the spiritual and the physical realms. So there is a clear, vivid description is used. So heaven is described and the earth is also described. Damsel's presence in heaven and her lover's earthly existence create a poignant dichotomy. You can see the two different worlds. Symbolism and imagery. Rossetti uses rich, detailed imagery and symbolism to convey the ethereal beauty of heaven and the purity of the damosel's love. Flowers, light, and celestial objects are recurring motifs that enhances the poem's dreamlike quality. And the style, medieval influence, as we have already discussed, he doesn't like the Raphael's period. So medieval influence is there in describing his poem and as well as the painting. Actually, first he wrote the poem and then he drew the picture. He painted Blessed Damozel based on the description which he used in the poem. So the art heavily influenced the poem's language and themes, reflecting the pre-Raphaelite fascination with the Middle Ages. Lyrical quality, Rossetti's uses of rhythmic, melodic language creates a lyrical quality that enhances the emotional depth of the poem. That means it is like a song. It is like a song. The poem is like a song. Language is also quite beautiful, very rhythmic. Visual imagery. The vivid descriptions and detailed imagery create a visual experience for the reader. When you read the poem, you feel that you are imagining, you are watching a painting. That much detailed, the language is detailed and described in such a way. The poetic diction is quite beautiful. And the colorful paintings of the pre-Raphaelites. The Blessed Damozel remains a poignant and beautifully crafted poem, capturing the essence of longing, love, and the hope for reunion beyond the boundaries of life and health. Okay. So with this, we are completed with block 4. Okay. Let us go to block 5. Okay, the last block, block 5. Unit 21, the background to 20th century. So the 20th century marked a significant change because it is called innovative period, 20th century. And there are so many significant changes. The era witnessed so many wars and people are aimless, hopeless for some time. And that is evident in the literature also. And after that, modernization and the factories developed, the business sector developed, as well as people started migrating to another countries also. And a style of the language has been changed. Scientific experiments, literary movements, so many literary movements are there. So this era witnessed the emergence of new literary movements, experimental styles with poetry and prose. and profound themes reflecting the dramatic social, political, and technological transformations of that time. So, historical and social context, world wars. So, First World War and Second World War, 1914, First World War, 14 to 18, Second World War, 39 to 45, profoundly impacted literature. The horrors of war, the loss of life, and the subsequent disillusionment influenced many writers, leading to themes of trauma, loss, and existential questioning. Why we are existing, why we are living, what is death, what is life? So what kind of technology that we are inventing? What is that technology is affecting in what way? It is destroying the entire humanity, isn't it? So you can imagine the Nagasaki, Hiroshima attacks and their attack on America. Okay, so many pathetic situations we can see around wherever you see the horrors of the cry and the loss of life, particularly thousands and lakhs of people died. So all these they influence the writers. T.S. Eliot, Wasteland, and all that. So many very good writings. Modernism. The early 20th century saw the rise of modernism, a movement that broke away from traditional forms and subjects. Modernist writers experimented with narrative techniques, stream of consciousness, fragmented structures, and multiple perspectives. Stream of consciousness technique. Virginia Woolf is quite popular for that. So even today also we are watching in the movies. So the main characters, the present would be going on, and suddenly one incident reminds them of their past experiences, and they go into the past, and the past will be shown, and suddenly they come out the past experience with a jolt, and the story continues in the present, isn't it? So this is stream of consciousness techniques. So whatever comes into the mind of the writer, they'll be writing. That means the writer is easy moving from past, present, and future. That is stream of consciousness. It is a very new trend in modernism. So this is a good experimentation, and actually writers adopted and encouraged this technique, narrative technique. So fragmented structures, you explain something and you move into another theme, another story, and you explain something and you go into another. So there is no continuity in the time, unity of time, action, and all that. At one place, one action is going on, and another area, another plot, another action is going on. So this kind of narrative technique is also encouraged, and there are with so many multiple perspectives. So post-colonialism. Post-colonialism. In India, post-colonialism. What is the effect? Post means after, later. Colonialism, the British rule. So Britishers called the countries colonies. Colonies in the sense when the Britishers occupied any other country, they called that countries as colonies. So post-colonialism, that situations of that particular country, people, their culture, education, economy, society, societal conditions, everything. How the colonial rule of Britishers affected the countries. That is post-colonialism. The decline of the British Empire and the rise of post-colonial voices brought new perspectives and themes to English literature. Writers from former colonies explored identity, displacement, and cultural conflict issues. So now there is no colony of British. Almost all the countries were freed from colonial rule. So now, what is the condition of those countries? For example, take India. So when Britishers leave, they left our country. What is our country? So economically, we were deprived, we are exploited, we are looted. So India is a poor country now, underdeveloped. They made us underdeveloped. They made us poor. And the influence of language. the influence of culture, British culture in our society, it is not 1 or 10 years. It is almost more than 100 years. So the changes, there are so many changes in education, in society, in religion, in societal conflicts, racial differences. So many issues are there. So what is our identity? To where we have to go? Into our future or into our past? So should we leave our past? So if we have to consider our past, what is our past? It is without Britishers or with Britishers. If you want to take out Britishers, so how the very past and the recent past. So is it possible to erase their influence and then rule in our lives? No. So such type of identity, where are we, where we should go, what is our situation? So there are so many themes, so many experiments done in almost throughout the world. So Indian literature, now Indian English writings. So they introduced English and they introduced religion. So now religion became a part of the society and language became a part of the society of each and every country society. So now what we have to how we have to develop, how we have to write, which language we have to use. Particularly in India, there is no one single religion, there is one not single language is culture, so many cultures, so many religions. So it is a vast area on a vast canvas that so many topics come into intersect with each other. So that is a post-colonialism. This is only India. You have Australia, you have Canada, you have Africa. So almost all these countries situation. Societal change, social change. The 20th century was marked by significant social changes, including the women's suffrage, uh, uh, and you can say feminism, civil rights movements, and the questioning of traditional gender roles and social norms. So women also started writing, women also started educating, they are doing their jobs, they are coming into the society out of the homes. So the question is arised, what is the role of women? Are they binded to only the home? And no, they want to come out. So that raised cultural issues, that raised societal issues. But still, women fought, and many men also encouraged women to come out of these bonds. These changes were reflected in the themes and subjects of literary works. Technological advancements. Advances in technology, from the invention of the telephone to the internet, transformed communication and profoundly impacted society and literature. So key literary movements and themes: modernism, early 20th century, characteristics, fragmentation, stream of consciousness technique, unreliable narrators, rejection of traditional plot structures, and exploration of the inner psyche. Inner psyche, what is going on in individual's mind, how they are thinking. The psychological aspects have been given importance due to the traumatic conditions of wars, the traumatic conditions of colonial rule. Okay, so all these things became the characteristics. Notable writers: James Joyce, Virginia Woolf, T.S. Eliot, Ezra Pound, and D.H. Lawrence. Key works: Ulysses by James Joyce, Mr. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf, The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot. Postmodernism, mid-date to late 20th century, mid to characteristics, playfulness, metafiction, intertextuality, and skepticism towards grand narratives and ideologies. So they started new techniques like there is no seriousness in the plot because life is not serious because they are playing with all these societal conditions. Notable writers includes Thomas Pynchon and Salman Rushdie and Anglia Carter and Jeanette Winterson. Key works: Gravity's Rainbow and Midnight Dream Children by Salman Rushdie, The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter. Maybe chamber or chamber. So post-colonial literature and feminist literature. So characteristics of post-colonial: exploration of identity, displacement, cultural hybridity, because cultures now, we don't have our own culture. There is a hybridization. It is a mix of colonial and our own. So, and the effects of colonization. How? What are the effects of this in the society? Notable writers: Chinua Achebe, V.S. Naipaul, Salman Rushdie, and James Coetzee. Key works: Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe, A House for Mr. Biswas by V.S. Naipaul, Indian writer, Disgrace by J.M. Coetzee. Feminist literature. Characteristics include examination of gender roles, critique of patriarchal structures, exploration of women's experiences and voices. Writers: Virginia Woolf, Sylvia Plath, and Doris Lessing and Margaret Atwood. Virginia Woolf and Margaret Atwood being the most prominent writers of the era. Key works: A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. It is a remarkable novel which introduced stream of consciousness technique. The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath and The Golden Notebook by Doris Lessing. So Theatre of the Absurd, another movement. This is about existential themes, nonsensical dialogue, absurd situations, and a focus on the meaningless of human existence. So this is Theatre of the Absurd. So the writer Samuel Beckett, we deal with Samuel Beckett, Waiting for Godot, in the next class, and Harold Pinter and Tom Stoppard. So Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett, The Homecoming by Harold Pinter, and Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead by Tom Stoppard. These are all the works. So again, themes includes disillusionment and alienation. Reflecting the aftermath of the World War, people are disillusioned, depressed, totally exploited, lost everything. So lost writers, lost age, and the breakdown of traditional values. So because there is no livelihood, people are struggling hard to find livelihood. People have to struggle hard to fill their stomachs, hunger, to feed their hunger. So traditional values broke down. Okay, many works explore feelings of disillusionment and alienation. They feel alienated. That means they don't feel attachment. They feel detached to the society and to the culture and to the people and to the places also. Identity and self. Writers delved into the complexities of identity, the self, and the human psyche, often questioning established norms and exploring inner consciousness. So, identity and self. So, why we are living? Question of identity. Where are we? What are we doing? And such type of identical questions. Complexities. So, whatever the conditions are existing, existentialism. So, you have to accept the condition, whatever it is, whether it is good or bad, whether they are, common or abnormal. So, you have to give preference and you have to accept the situation as it is. That is the existentialism. So that has been observed in their novels. So technology and modernity. The impact of technological advancements and the rapid pace of modern life were frequent themes. So technological advancements and the rapid pace of modern life, how the technology is growing and how the technology is taking place. It is overtaking the humanity's conscience. It started commanding, it started ordering, it started controlling the humanity and the psyche of the humanity, isn't it? So wars and the internet and the robotics, computers. So all these. So people started addressing the issues by examining both technology's potential and dehumanizing aspects. Societal and political critique. Many writers addressed social and political issues, from critiques of capitalism and imperialism to explorations of class, race, and gender. So influential writers of the age, James Joyce, and writings here, The Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, Virginia Woolf, Mrs. Dalloway, The Lighthouse, To the Lighthouse, T.S. Eliot, The Wasteland, Four Quarters, George Orwell's Animal Farm. So this is one more important author, George Orwell, Animal Farm, and Samuel Beckett, Waiting for Godot and Endgame. Salman Rushdie, Middle Night Children and Satanic Verses. Satanic Verses become very controversial, and the work has been banned in almost all parts of the world except one or two. And recently they lifted the ban in some parts of the world. Doris Lessing, The Golden Notebook, The Grass is Singing. Margaret Atwood, The Handmaid's Tale, Cat's Eye. The 20th century was a dynamic and innovative period for English literature, characterized by a break from traditional forms and the exploration of new themes and the rise of diverse voices that reshaped the literary landscape. That means landscape. That means literature, the main purpose of the literature is to offer entertainment and to look after, to mirror as the society. So they started writing on the societal issues, almost all conditions of the society. So Unit 22 is by Sons and Lovers by D.H. Lawrence, which is quite popular of its own kind. It is unique kind. D.H. Lawrence. David Herbert Lawrence was an influential English writer and poet, known for his novels, short stories, poems, essays, and travel books. His works explore the themes of emotional health, vitality, human sexuality, and instinct, often challenging the restrictive norms of the early 20th century. So, even though he became the main source of the criticism. There's many writers critiqued the writings of D.H. Lawrence because his writings are included the intimate thoughts and he started discussing openly about the socially viewed, prohibited like things who are called taboos. So if it is a taboo, that means we don't talk about it. We don't talk about the personal, physical, sexual relations of humans, particularly in the early 20th century. But he started writing. So that is necessary for the human well-being. That is the opinion of T.H. Lawrence. Even though many of his works, majority of his works includes these themes, and they were highly criticized by his co-authors. But even though he started writing, but now it became quite common to discuss about such things. But in 20th century, he had to face so much of criticism about it. So early life and education. So he was born in Eastwood, Nottinghamshire, England. Parents, Arthur John Lawrence, a coal miner, and Lydia Bedshard, a former school teacher. The contrast between his parents' backgrounds influenced Lawrence's understanding of social and economic divides. So his mother is a teacher, his father is a coal miner. Means not that much educated. So this is a societal divide. So he grew up in a such condition that he can understand both the backgrounds. So he thought that knowledge should be given to the society. the consequences which he faced and he might have observed from others' experiences became his subjects of his writings. Education. Lawrence attended Nottingham High School on a scholarship and later Nottingham University College. He initially worked as a teacher before dedicating himself to writing. So his literary career, early works, first novel, The White Peacock. It explores the relationships and tensions in rural England, showcasing Lawrence's early style, his childhood experiences. And Sons and Lovers, the semi-autobiographical novel, is considered one of Lawrence's masterpieces. It details the complexities of family relationships, particularly the intense bond between a mother and her son. Major novels, The Rainbow, Women in Love, Lady Charlotte's Lover. He wrote short stories and poems also. This Lady Charlotte's Lover, recently a film has been made and it is available in Netflix. But at those times, this work was banned. His book was banned because of his excessive description of the physical relationship. Short stories, The Rocking Horse Winner, The Horse Dealer's Daughter, and Order of Chrysanthemums. Poetry, Lawrence poetry, including collections like Birds, Beasts, and Flowers. So he wrote essays and travel writings also. Essays, Lawrence wrote extensively on literature, philosophy, and politics. His essay collections include Studies in Classic American Literature, where he offers insights into American authors like Herman Melville and Nathaniel Hawthorne. Nathaniel Hawthorne, I think you might have read in American literature, Scarlet Letter, and Herman Melville, Macbeth. Sorry, it is about Herman Melville is also very good writer, is also American writer. Travel writings. Lawrence traveled widely, living in Italy, Australia, Mexico, and the United States. His travel experiences are documented in books such as Sea and Sardinia and Mornings in Mexico. Herman Melville, he wrote Moby Dick. Personal life, marriage. Lawrence married Freda von Richthofen, a German aristocrat, in 1914. Their marriage was passionate but turbulent, and Freda influenced much of Lawrence's work. Lawrence suffered from poor health throughout his life, particularly from tuberculosis. He died on March 2nd, 1930, in Venice, France. D.H. Lawrence remains a central figure in English literature, known for his fearless exploration of taboo and his ability to capture the complexities of human emotions and relationships. His works continue to be studied for their literary merit and their impact on discussions about sexuality, censorship, and the human condition. Despite facing controversy and censorship during his lifetime, Lawrence's contributions have had a lasting influence on both literature and societal attitudes towards sexuality and individuality. Nature and industrialization, he talks about nature and industrialization, psychological and emotional depth. So his works delve deeply into his characters' psychological and emotional lives. His characters gives us a clear description, their conflict, their thoughts, their dilemmas and all that, and their desires. Symbolism and imagery, Lawrence's use of symbolism and vivid imagery adds layers of meaning to his narratives, enriching the reader's experience. So here are novel Sons and Lovers. So Sons and Lovers is one of D.H. Lawrence's most celebrated works, often considering a pioneering exploration of psychological depth and human relationships. So it is published in 1913, and this is a semi-autobiographical novel. So D.H. Lawrence included his personal experiences, delves into the complexities of family dynamics, particularly the intense bond between a mother and her son. The novel is often analyzed for its portrayal of Oedipus themes, its critique of industrial society, and its exploration of human emotion and sexuality. So, Oedipus complex, we will talk about it. So, setting, this novel is set in the coal mining town of Bestwood in Nottinghamshire, England, during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. So, the plot is, so in the first part, the story begins with the courtship and marriage of Gertrude Morrell and Walter Morrell. Gertrude is from a middle-class family and is initially charmed by Walter's vivacity. Same. So Gertrude is from middle class and she's educated, whereas Walter Morrell, he's a coal mine worker. However, their marriage quickly deteriorates due to Walter's drinking and lack of ambition. Gertrude becomes disillusioned and shifts her emotional focus to her children, particularly her sons, William and Paul. So she has a daughter also, and William and Paul, her two sons, William, the elder son, Paul, second son. So their marriage is not successful one. So this man becomes drunkard and she focuses on her children and quite she develops a deep emotional bond with her sons. William's death. William, the eldest son, becomes his mother's pride and joy. He gets a good job in London and appears to be on a successful path. However, he dies suddenly from pneumonia, devastating Gertrude and intensifying her attachment to her second son, Paul. So initially, because William is her elder son, she is closely attached, emotionally attached to William most. He becomes successful and he gets a job and suddenly he dies. So she becomes shatters and she becomes helpless and hopefulness and she becomes ill. At times, Paul comes to rescue her. So she completely now focuses on Paul. So Paul's relationship. So now because he's quite most attached to his mother, so he could not establish any kind of relationships with girls of his age. So he becomes ambiguous of every relationship. Okay. So Paul Morrell, the protagonist, is a sensitive and artistic young man. The novel focuses on his struggle to balance his loyalty to his mother with his romantic relationships. Paul becomes involved with two women. These two are important characters. After William, Paul, and Gertrude, Miriam, she is a spiritual and intellectual companion, and Clara, and she is a girlfriend. She is older to Paul and more sensual woman who is estranged from her husband. She leaves her husband and she involves in a relationship with Paul. So Paul's relationships with Miriam and Clara are fraught with tension and dissatisfaction, largely due to his overpowering bond with his mother. So now he is unable to continue his relationship with Miriam or Clara. And he was always dominated by the love portrayed by his mother. Gertrude's influence over Paul stifles his emotional and sexual growth. Eventually, Gertrude falls ill and Paul devotes himself to caring for her. After her death, Paul is left in an existential crisis, uncertain of his future, but determined to find his path. This is the end of the novel. So, finally, his mother dies, and now he is unable to choose between Miriam or Clara. Miriam is being a young, beautiful, modest girl. Clara, who is separated from her husband and who is physically involved, who tries always to have a relationship with extramarital relationship with Paul. So Paul now, he is emotionally not in a good condition. He's not emotionally rich. So now he is unable to choose either Miriam or Clara. to which path he has to take. So he's filled with uncertainty, but he has determined to go to find his path. The novel ends there. Critical analysis, Oedipus complex, Freudian influence. So Sigmund Freud, I think in literary criticism, you might have studied and heard about Sigmund Freud, the father of psychology. So Oedipus complex. So he says Oedipus complex, Oedipus, actually this has been taken from Oedipus the Rex, the story from Greek mythology. So I think we don't have much time to talk about Oedipus. So in a single word, you can say that Oedipus complex is the love or the attraction between the opposite sex of course, a love between boy and mother. Okay. And the love between girl and father. That is. So that has the most influence in the raising of children, according to Sigmund Freud. So it deals with that idea, Oedipus complex, because the mother is attached to her sons, and her sons are also attached to mother. So the novel is often analyzed through the lens of Freudian psychoanalysis. So this comes under the part of criticism, psychoanalysis, particularly the Oedipus complex, Paul's intense attachment to his mother and his difficulty forming successful romantic relationships are manifestations of this complex. So it is explained in the lens of Freudian psychoanalysis. This can be dealt with the Oedipus complex. Mother-son bond. Gertrude's emotional dependence on Paul and her desire to live vicariously through him create an unhealthy dynamic that stifles Paul's personal growth. So the strong emotional dependence of his mother or the mother on her sons, particularly sons. So they exploited the psychological development and emotional strength of her children. This bond is central to the novel's conflict and Paul's character development. So characterization here, Gertrude moral. Gertrude is portrayed as a strong but ultimately tragic figure. Her dissatisfaction with her marriage and her consequent emotional investment in her sons are portrayed with deep psychological insight. So this is a societal change. This is the change of the, transcending or the transformation in the profession, societal changes, and the intersectionality between the working class and the middle class. So where Gertrude belongs to middle class and her husband belongs to working class. Paul's character embodies the struggle between duty and desire. So Paul has a desire to choose his own girlfriend, but he is also feels dutiful. So that's why he cannot leave his mother. His artistic sensibilities and inner conflicts make him a complex and sympathetic protagonist. We feel pity towards the character and his inner conflict of Paul. Secondary characters, Miriam and Clara, they represent different facets of love and companionship. Miriam's spiritual love contrasts with Clara's physical passion, reflecting Paul's divides nature. So themes. They include industrialization and nature, sexuality and repression, class and social mobility. So a novel criticizes industrialization, harsh realities, coal mining backdrop symbolizes how the workers are, dumping into the profession. And so because of their profession, they're forced to they're prone to the bad habits and the middle class aspirations. So where the working class has no aspirations because they are brutally dehumanized and they don't have any respect in the society and all that. So they lack hope. And the middle class, obviously, they are with hope. when they are not were unable to meet their expectations, their aspirations, they become frustrated. And so all these characters, they suffer due to the societal changes. Okay, so that has been explored very clearly through the characters. So Lawrence contrast, the future is uncertain, like Paul. He is unable to take the path, whether the spiritual or the physical, like between Miriam and Clara, whom he has to choose. That is, future is uncertain. Through his character, the political and the societal economical disturbances, poignancy has been expressed throughout the characters, and the character developments is also gradually explores so many social issues. So sexuality is depicted, no doubt. The novel addresses the complexities of sexual desire, repression, and the struggle for sexual liberation. Class and social mobility, the moral family's socio-economic struggles reflect broader themes of class and ambition. So what is ambition? Based on their class, whether it is business class, working class, or middle class. Gertrude's aspirations for her sons highlight the tension between individual desires and social expectations. So symbolism and imagery. So nature, Lawrence uses nature imagery to convey emotional states and thematic contrast. The natural world is a source of beauty and solace, counterpointing the grim industrial landscape. So he describes the dark and the dusty industrial area, as well as he describes a beautiful nature. So light and darkness, symbolic contrast of light and darkness, underscore the novel's emotional and psychological themes. Light often represents clarity and hope, clarity between the relationship, and it represents hope, while darkness symbolizes despair and entrapment. When they are unclear, uncertain, where in the depression, despair, that symbolizes dark. Okay, so with this, our this ends Sons and Lovers. In next class, we will continue. Already it is 11:35. So if you have any doubts, you just tell me. And in next class, we will deal with some important topics of the entire paper. Okay. As tomorrow is our last class. If you have any doubts, please come up with doubts. And we will discuss the important topics also. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, ma'am.
Have a nice day.
Thank you,
Madam,
ma'am.
screenshot. Madam, they take a photo or screenshot, whatever it is.
Ma? Yes, tell me.
Ma'am, I think you have to capture the screenshot of participants.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, then thank you. Have a nice time.
Thank you, ma'am.